Hello, my name's Dom Hawthorn and this is the VHII Sheriff 25. So all of the guitar tones that you've just heard in that intro track were all recorded through the Sheriff 25 into the Suhr Reactive load box and through an impulse response of a 212 cab loaded with Celestion greenback speakers. The Sheriff 25 is from VHII's updated line of Sheriff amps. So it very much shares like the same DNA as the Sheriff 22 and the Sheriff 44, but with some really important changes and some new features as well. One of the main changes with the updated Sheriff amps is the master volume has been changed. So on the original amps, it was a post-phase inverter master volume, which meant it was quite difficult to get drive pedals or boost pedals to play nicely with the old Sheriff amps. And it was the same with the effects loop as well. So like delays and reverbs in the effects loop of the old Sheriff amps could get distorted quite easily. Whereas those issues have now been addressed on the latest Sheriff amps. So on the Sheriff 25, on the Super Sheriff 100, they both work brilliantly with drive pedals, boost pedals like in front of the amp, or like delays, reverbs, or like modulation effects in the loop. It takes pedals really well. We've got two channels on the Sheriff 25, which is the same as the older Sheriff amps. However, the Sheriff 25, the second channel, the hot rod channel, has a lot more overdrive on tap than the older amps. So it goes right from kind of like modded Plexi through to JCM 800, even like modded JCM 800 kind of tones. So there's a lot of gain on tap on that second channel. And we've also got a bass focus switch if you want to tighten up the low end a little bit, and a presence shift switch as well. They're both located on the back of the amp. So the presence switch allows you to kind of switch between kind of a brighter, more kind of like classic Plexi sound, or a kind of smoother high end if that's what you're after. So you've got, you know, a lot of tonal shaping options with this Sheriff 25. So obviously the Sheriff amps are you know, clearly based on those kind of like British overdrive kind of sounds. You know, so they do the Plexi thing really well. And something that, you know, the Plexi amps are known for is how dynamic they are and how they interact with the guitar's volume and tone controls and picking dynamics. So in this next clip, I'm going to try and like demonstrate some of that with the Sheriff 25. So I've got the amp set for like a crunchy kind of overdrive tone, and then I'm using the guitar's volume controls and also like my picking dynamics to kind of vary the you know, the cleanness of the sound right through to proper you know, crunchy overdrive tones. Not only does the Sheriff nail those kind of like classic overdrive tones, it also has some absolutely stunning clean tones available. So in this next clip, I've just rolled the channel 1, the vintage channel, the gain down, just so it's kind of like on the edge of breakup. And I'm using a Stratocaster with single coil pickups, and you can get some absolutely lovely clean tones. So in the past, I have owned the Sheriff 22 and the Sheriff 44, which are the first generation of Sheriff amps. And like I mentioned, they had like some, not so much issues, it was more just like the design of the amp, that they didn't take pedals particularly well, or you had to kind of like come up with some like workarounds to be able to get like a usable lead boost. However, like I mentioned, the updated Sheriff amps don't have any of those issues, and they take pedals really well. So this next clip, I'm just going to show kind of like a few different overdrive pedals in front of the Sheriff, but also like your reverbs and delays work really well in the loop. So in the intro track, a few of those clips had like reverbs and delay pedals in the loop of the Sheriff as well. when Victory announced this new line of Sheriff amps, I was really excited because the Sheriff 22 and the Sheriff 44 were some of my favourite tones that I've ever had. However, with the whole like kind of effects thing and not being able to run overdrives or like effects in the loop, they were quite limiting for what I needed in terms of gigging, and I ended up switching to a V140 and getting my overdrive tones from pedals. But I always missed those overdrive tones that the Sheriff amps kind of delivered. So yeah, when these new ones got announced, I was super excited to see that they've addressed some of those issues with the first generation of Sheriff amps. So I had to make the decision whether I went with the 25 or the Super Sheriff, the 100 watt. And I kind of went back and forth a little bit, but one of the key factors for me was that I wanted it to be portable. And like easily transported for gigging, and you know, even when I had the V140, I ran that through a 112 cab, and even that was kind of like a bit of a pain, like gigging wise, to like loading in and loading out because of how big and heavy it was. So I opted for the 25. Based on its size and like knowing that I could run it through like a 112 cab. And I'm really glad that I did as well, because one of my concerns was whether it would have enough headroom, being only 25 watts for gigging. But I have to say it easily keeps up with a loud drummer and in a band situation. It's got plenty of headroom, you know, even on clean settings it's you know, it's more than loud enough for typical gigs. Obviously if you're doing like a massive gig, it's not gonna, you know, fill a huge room on its own, but then if you kind of play in those kind of size venues, you're likely to be mic'd up anyway, so you know, it shouldn't really be an issue. And it's like more than loud enough for stage volume. And again, I know I keep going on about like how well it takes effects and how the old Sheriffs didn't, but that was like something that a lot of Sheriff users had issues with. So the fact that that's been addressed is really, really good. And it really makes this an extremely versatile amp. And even without pedals, the amp is extremely versatile. So the master volumes, it's a dual master volume. So you've got a master volume for the first channel and then another master volume for the second channel, which allows you to balance obviously your volume for each channel. So if you wanted the first channel set clean with the gain quite low, then you need to have the master volume quite high. And then you can set your second channel with whatever gain you might want, a lot of gain. Well, there you're gonna need to bring the second master volume down to balance it with the first channel, which again is something that wasn't present on the first generation of Sheriff amps. So that's a really nice feature to have added. But also you can actually set these master volumes to work globally across both channels. So what I mean by that is you could set your channel 1 up and have it on master volume 1, set it as loud as you need it. And then with the foot switch, you can actually then switch to master volume 2, and that could give you like a volume boost. So you've got that channel 1 available at 2 different like loudnesses. And then the same goes for channel 2 as well, yeah. So you know, it gives you essentially like 4 different settings there, just from the 2 channels. And then again with the bass focus and the presence shift, you know, there's so many options for shaping your tone and getting the amp set up to suit, you know, how you want it to work. The last thing I just want to mention is that the Sheriff 25 uses EL86 valves, whereas the Super Sheriff, the 100 watt, uses EL34s. And obviously EL34s are the valve that's, you know, most commonly associated with like a Plexi style amp. And I've seen a few people online asking the question as to whether the EL86s in the Sheriff 25 are gonna lack kind of like the thickness and that kind of like big low end that you kind of get from like an EL34 amp. But honestly, if someone had told me that the Sheriff 25 had EL34s in it, I would never have doubted it. There's no reason to be concerned about the difference in valve between these two amps. The EL86s do the job perfectly. You know, I don't find it lacking in any kind of way. Like I say, if someone told me that it had EL34s in it, I would like completely believe them, because it sounds and feels exactly how you would expect that type of amp with that type of valves to sound and feel. So I don't think that should be a concern for anyone if you're trying to decide between the Sheriff 25 and the Super Sheriff. But yeah, I think that's about it for this video anyway. So super happy with this amp. It's my favorite Victory amp that I've owned and played through so far. It's definitely going to be my main gigging and recording amp for the foreseeable future now. The fact that it works so well with pedals, the fact that it does the whole Plexi JCM 800 like hot rod thing, it's absolutely spot on. It's everything that I would want from an amp. So I'm super happy with it. So if you are in the market for like kind of like Plexi style hot rodded Plexi JCM 800 kind of thing, then you know 100% go for it. I don't think you'd be disappointed at all. So yeah, hopefully if you're watching this video because you're looking at getting one of these amps, then you know, I hope you've found this video useful. Hope you've all enjoyed watching, and if you have, feel free to like and subscribe and all that kind of thing, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.